All right, everyone, so here's what happened to me today. I went to the gas station to get gas, my Corvette C6, opened this thing up, popped open, pumped some gas, went to close it, and when it say close, I was like, hey, what's going on here? So what it was is this little plunger here that goes up in there, as you can see. I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. That's the plunger that keeps the door closed, and you can see what's left of the dirty old rusty nasty spring in there. And I knew what had happened as soon as I looked down in there and saw that that little plunger was staying down inside of this business, because this goes through right here and is held on by a 15mm nut right there. You'll see the nut, and you'll see the top of this sticking through the nut, and you'll see this plunger stuck down flush even with this, not allowing this little rod to come back out and keep the door closed. So I Googled it real quick, found a lot of other people had the same problem, so they went and bought a spring from Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, wherever you want to buy it from. So I'm assuming it needs to be about the same diameter of that hole, which I'll measure in a few moments so I can go to the hardware store and get the correct part. But basically, to gain access to this, obviously you take your wheel off. You need to remove a couple of screws holding the stuff in. One here, one here, one here, and then there are 3 little plastic tabs holding in the brake duct. One is on the side, you can see it there where my finger is. One is on the bottom here, and the third one, I don't remember exactly where it was. I think there was maybe another one on the side. I don't remember exactly where it was. Oh, it was going through right here. So get those 3 things off, and then what you're going to do is push this in and bring it down after you remove your brake duct. You're going to have to get the brake duct out of the way first. Once it's out of the way, you just pull this down, and then, like I said, take a 15mm, take that nut off while holding the back of this. And then this was slid over this, kind of giving it a bit of protection. And this thing was just held on with 2 little prongs here. It went like this. You see these little 2 prongs where or the 2 tabs where the prongs attached to. So that's the business there. Like I said, you just pull this back, get your 2 prongs off. You use like a little screwdriver or something to kind of gently pry it off, and that gets you access to your spring. So I'm going to go to the hardware store, find out exactly what spring size this is, because that is the information that I was lacking when I Googled it. I did not find anybody state what size spring you need. So I'm going to fill in that last piece of the puzzle there and help you fix this on your car. Okay, so I went to Ace Hardware and I brought this little nib with me here, so I knew what size to get. The size I was looking for was one that just barely fits over this without too much play, because the spring actually holds the cable in position when it goes around it. So what I did was I trimmed this down as I stuck this up in there like so, and then I put this next to it and said, okay, well, my spring needs to be about that long, just to about the point where the spring is. I think I might have got this one a little bit too short, but just a moment ago I had it too long, and it was actually too much spring tension for the actuator to be able to pull the plug back in, so that didn't work. So I had to trim it down. And then what you do to get this in is kind of use your fingernail or whatever to hold this back, and you'll see this little slot. This goes in, just kind of stick it right in like that, let the spring come back down and cover it. Then you take this piece, you'll notice that there's a groove on one side right here, and then a tab on the side of your little plunger here. So make sure you line up the groove with that tab, slide it down in there. And then there's also a tab on this piece, you can see it right there. You want to get that in that groove as well. Stick it into position, and then go ahead and slide this back over your little weatherproof guard there, and then test it with your actuator to make sure there's not too much spring tension for your actuator. So just open your car door and hit your actuator, make sure it has the ability to pop back out. If the spring is too strong, you're gonna have to cut your spring down or get a softer spring. But that's about it. From here, you just put it back in your car, put your 15mm nut back on it. If this fell out when you pulled this down, right here you can see that this was stuck around this, like so, up in the panel. I'm gonna take a blow dryer and heat this up so it's nice and hot. You can take a, well, not real hot, just so it's a little gooey, so I can stick it back up in the fender. But that's pretty much about it. Just put it back together. It's a pretty simple, straightforward process. You put this back in position, put your nut back on, stick that thing up, put your fender liner back in, and you're ready to roll. Okay, so 2 more things before I let you go. One is that actuator does float a little bit in that hole, so make sure you line this back up. Make sure you put it at the proper distance so that this is nice and flush when it's closed. And earlier in the video, I said to stick, excuse me just a moment, that thing back to the inner side of the fender. You can see that's actually not where it goes right there. That's the part of the trunk liner, so that's where it needs to go. So make sure you get that back in the right spot. Don't stick it to your fender, stick it, that is that direction on the body up inside there. So make sure that you note that as well. So I hope this video helps you out, helps you fix your car for 99 cents instead of however much this part costs. I saw it for 80, I saw it for 280. Seems to be a pretty large range depending on where you buy it. But I mean, all you need is a 99-cent spring if that's the only problem, as long as your actuator is still working. So thank you again for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for a lot of other how-to videos, and thank you very much.